Good morning. Okay, Kimberly Dawn here, and you are either a flight instructor or a flight training student or just a keen observer of all things aviation. And today I want to cover very quickly the one major mistake, the one major problem that flight instructors make with brand new learners, okay, private pilot learners. And often when people come to me to deal with the difficult student or the student is having problems with their flight instructor, so they come to me to help fix the problems, I see this one thing over and over and over again. So if you, the instructor, or you, the flight training student, or you know somebody that is one of those things, you can send them this video and just help make flight training better, okay? And it starts with lesson number 1 and lesson number 2. So lesson number 2 should cover straight and level flying. But Kimberly, it's so easy. It's just fly straight. I showed him the horizon and I showed him all this stuff. So yes, this is too often skipped over. And what we're going to be talking about is the lift trade-off. Where's my airplane? Okay. So the lift trade-off, and then how that affects what the student sees. Okay, so step 1, I do have a quick slide ready to show you, but step 1 is to talk about how the airplane generates lift. And so this is brought up because I had yet another commercial student come to me this morning. We had this talk this morning, and this person has had many hours. I didn't ever hear it explained in this way. So I figured I'd help everybody out, give you guys an early Christmas present. So let's talk about the lift trade-off. Number 1, how does the pilot have control over lift in the air? Okay. Number 1, most people say drop flaps. I don't know, change the camber of the wing. No, honey. I don't need the lift formula. I need to discuss how you can create more lift. If you and I are sitting in the airplane and I say, create more lift, I want you to be able to do one of 2 things. And the number 1 thing you're going to do, and this is my relative airflow pen in relative airflow wind indicator, right? And my angle of attack. So to start off with, please confirm your student understands the 3 parts of this. We have chord line, which is a line drawn from the wing tip to the wing trailing edge, wing tip to wing trailing edge, right? So therefore, if you do drop flaps, then the wing tip to wing trailing edge would look like this. Yes, it increases angle, but chord line is wing tip to wing trailing edge. And then this is my relative airflow, or relative wind as it's called in some textbooks. I hate that because it's too confusing with actual wind. Relative airflow indicator, and then we have how the relative airflow meets that chord line. This is a very low angle. This is a bigger angle. So if the aircraft was descending like this and the airflow is coming from here, then we have a bigger angle. So the angle that's made between the chord line and my relative airflow is the angle of attack. Now, I'm about to say something that is not technically accurate. And those of you that have taken the 2-year aerodynamics degree, please don't troll me. I know this is not technically inaccurate, or this is technically inaccurate, but it's an easy way to remember it. So if we have the angle difference between the chord line and the relative airflow, okay, think of Newton's 3rd law of air bumping the wing and the air bouncing down, and therefore the airplane is getting pushed up, okay? If we make that angle bigger, then more airflow can hit the wing and push us up. That is an increase in lift. Yes, I know it's inaccurate. Relax, okay. So that's number 1 way. So if I say, hey, let's increase some lift, what can you do? And you say, pull back in the control column to increase the angle of attack, we would high five and we'd probably celebrate in the airplane, okay? So what is the second way that the pilot has control over lift in the airplane? And that has everything to do with Mr. Bernoulli now. I know, technically inaccurate, relax. Okay, this is the 5-minute cartoon. So if our aircraft is like this, we know that there's high pressure below here. All those molecules from Newton are piling up down here. And we know that there's less pressure up here. So high pressure down here, less pressure up here. And that's what's pushing or sucking the airplane up into the sky, okay? But around the wingtip, we can get it. Now this is getting into induced drag. So I go through the questioning technique to talk about the student. What is induced drag and what happens because of lift? Well, that high pressure air can get to the low pressure area. And as soon as you start that air swirling, it's going to continue to swirl. Okay, so we're having these two, as I call them, the tiny tornadoes coming backwards off of the wingtips. These are our wingtip vortices. What is in the middle of those wingtip vortices? The tiny tornadoes? Pretty much nothing. There's nothing in the middle of that. Well, yes, there is. Relax, I know. Okay, but it is very low pressure. So you can think of that if we have these two tiny tornadoes that are coming off of the wingtips, in the middle of it is a very low pressure. It's a vacuum. And you got two vacuum strings now that are pulling back on that airplane. So it's pulling it backwards. And if you increase the angle of attack, the difference between the high pressure and the low pressure gets bigger. So it's a bigger difference between high pressure and low pressure. And therefore those vortices can get bigger and bigger. So if you increase the angle of attack, the vortices get bigger, the vacuums get bigger, and it pulls more back on the aircraft, okay? So we talked about increasing the angle of attack to get more lift. It also creates more induced drag. Now, the second way that the pilot has control over lift, second way, is right here, where on my toy airplane, the prop is gone. But if we increase thrust, if we get it more power, right, then what's going to happen is the airplane is going to be dragged through the air faster, and then more air over the wings. We have more air over the wings, so we have more lift. So you and I are sitting in the airplane, and I say, how do we create more lift? What are the one of two ways? You could say increase angle of attack, we high five, or you say give it power to increase airflow over the wings, and we high five, and everything's fat, dumb, and happy. And this applies to straight and level flight. But as a quick recap, if we increase lift with angle of attack, we also get a whole bunch of drag. So this is going to slow us down. It's going to slow us down. If we increase lift by adding thrust with more air over the wings, then we're going to be burning more fuel. So there's your trade-off as well. So one slows us down and one burns more fuel. All right, there's your trade-off. So if we talk about straight and level flight specifically, I know that you as the student and you as the instructor, you've discussed the horizon in the past, right? You know what the horizon is. You know the visual part where the sky meets the ground. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. Share screen. Okay. So right here, we have the visual difference. Sometimes you can see the curvature, the metal parts of the nose if you're 172 and your seat is high enough. Other aircraft you may not. Whatever visual reference you use, you have the quote unquote nose of what you can see right here, and then you have the horizon, that imaginary line where the sky meets the ground. And if you measure it with a fist, if you measure it with 4 fingers, if you measure it because it cuts off the compass or it's right above the compass, however you measure it, most people have gone through this. They know what the visual reference is supposed to look like. This is how I measure it. And then trimming, that's a whole nother discussion on how to trim properly. But the visual aspects right now is very important. What most instructors don't teach, and this is the main reason for this video, what most instructors don't teach is that even though this normal cruise attitude needs to be memorized, there's actually 2 more going on here. Okay, so first, let's stop sharing and make sure this is working properly. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so most instructors are okay at talking about, you know, this is normal cruise attitude. Here's the distance between your panel and the horizon. However, that's in training normal cruise, which is around, let's call it 2,300 RPM. So if it's 2,300 RPM and this is what the visual picture looks like, everything is happy. But the problem comes now when you send that student onto a cross country, we're looking at the books, they've done the calculations, and they're going to have a much higher power setting. They're going to have a high cruise power setting, and therefore they cannot use the same visual references. So what they do is they realize they have to lower the nose, so they stop climbing, but it feels weird. Wait, there's too much ground in my windscreen now. I don't know what's happening. And then they have problems holding straight and level, and it looks like the student is just having a ridiculously difficult time. I can't believe you can't hold straight and level. What is going on? When it's actually the instructor's fault, because they didn't spend enough time discussing the fact that if you have, let's do this now. Oh, no, don't do that. Okay. Okay, so over here on the far right side, if this is normal cruise, stop sharing for just one second. If this is normal cruise, 2,300 RPM, you got that perfect picture, everything's great. But if you add more lift with more airflow over the wings because of power, now we're on a cross country and we're cruising at 2,500 RPM or something higher, we've got more airflow, we've got more lift. This airplane wants to start climbing. And therefore, to stop the aircraft from climbing, we have to lower the nose. And by lowering the nose to hold straight and level, it ends up being a different picture. That's the picture on the far right. This is high cruise. More power equals more airflow equals more lift. So you have to hold the nose down to maintain straight and level flight. The student needs to understand that there are actually 3 pictures that you need to memorize: normal cruise, high cruise, and low cruise. These are 3 different pictures. It is not just one measurement. Normal cruise is your first measurement. But you must understand that if you're going to add power, you're also adding airflow over those wings, you're adding lift, you have to lower the nose to maintain straight and level flight. And the opposite is true as well. Over here on low cruise, if you're in the circuit and you're in a 172 behind a 150, you have to slow down so you don't have an 8-mile base to final turn, right? So if you slow down over here, let's take a look at this. Normal cruise is the same picture out here, but if you reduce power, you're reducing airflow over the wings, you're reducing the lift, you don't want to descend, so what do? You pick up the nose, you increase angle of attack, and it slows you down. Therefore, the picture that you see now is going to be much less ground and much more sky. And it's so important for you to understand that the visual picture is going to be different. No, you're not stupid for not being able to hold straight and level at the end of your license. It's because your instructor didn't spend enough time describing the difference and allowing you to memorize that this is normal cruise, sure, but this is high cruise. We've got more power. We got to see more ground. We got to lower the nose. Okay, normal cruise. And then this is going to be low cruise because less power, less lift. We have to increase angle of attack to stay straight and level. This is key. I hope this has helped you. There are actually 5 major things that flight instructors and students do wrong within the first 10 hours of their training. That is a very easy fix for the rest of your flying. And I'd say, well, it's attitude flying, which is what we just talked about. Then trimming problems, yaw control, which even though the words make sense, you don't know what I'm talking about. And aim point exercises, the bridge, and landing problems. So those 5 items are, if fixed now, will save the rest of your life. And if you're an instructor that has a brand new private pilot student and you don't know what any of this means and you want to teach your student properly the first time, please send me a message. If you are a student and you want to understand what these mean the first time because your instructor is not teaching them to you, send me a message. If you know somebody that's doing this, send me a message, because all I want to do is help flight training. All I want to do is help you guys get better. All right. So I hope you guys go kick some ass today. Bye.